dies.
Wow.
So my fear is not the lack of a future. My fear is not having one at all. Okay. So now I understand. I got to the root, the bottom. Like, I can't go any lower than feeling like I'm dying. That is what failure is associated with in my mind. So I'm afraid of failing, which means I'm afraid of dying. Hello there, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Little Bricks Podcast.
Come on.
We've got Devin, your handsome, dapper, blonde-haired co-host. And then you've got me, your straight-edged, laced, and clean...
Muslim.
Is that all people see me as, is the Muslim?
Well, I mean, to be fair, it is like kind of our little intro thing we did when we first started the podcast.
I know it is.
Which I feel like is less of the focus now. I feel like more of the focus is on the fact that, like, we do have a lot of things in common.
We're going to do it again.
What?
I scratched my nose while I was doing the intro. I hate myself for it.
All I'll do is take the camera angle off you. That's literally how you fix that.
Okay.
That exact moment, I'll flash it to me.
Okay.
It's okay, buddy.
Back to what you were saying.
No, I just think that that's like that was the focus when we started it, but now it's like,
guys,
more of the focus is on the fact of like all the things we do have in common, or people in general, right?
I ain't Muslim no more.
Yeah, now he's a staunch atheist.
I'm just kidding. I still am. I just like that funny guy. How's your camera look?
Fine.
Cool.
Yeah. Both of them are recording.
I kicked it on accident.
Oh, that's all right.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I ain't gay no more.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I don't like men's.
Yeah.
I love that guy. He's hilarious.
Yeah.
But yes, we are back. And we've got a brand new topic.
Yeah.
And this one was something I wrote between the hours of 11:30 and 1 a.m. And
that's important to note. I agree.
Damn near a fever dream how I wrote this. I was just feverishly typing it up.
Probably because you can relate to it so much, as can I.
Yes.
The topic itself is making me a little bit on edge, I'll be honest.
Well, I'm glad we're on it then.
Yeah, I'm excited to learn about this.
Today's topic is about anxiety.
Oh, no.
Yes. Anxiety. And I took a very positive approach to it. It's called conquering anxiety in an opinionated way. Meaning these are strictly my opinions, while there is some science in it just to back up some ideas and facts.
Yeah.
I did not go and get my PhD in therapy. I just went and did things.
Human psychology,
Human psychology. Although I did study it, to be fair.
Yeah.
I could have gone into psychology. I was very much close to doing that. And then I realized that was a terrible plan for me. As I am an empath and I absorb people's pain. I do not want to do that. Yeah,
that would be a tough place to be, for sure.
That was a wise decision on my end to not do that. But I did study a little psychology.
Nice.
So, as I was saying, it's a very opinionated way of going about it, because I'm going about expressing how I feel in my own logical process. I was able to work through a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
And that was Winchester agreeing.
I was like,
he is agreeing.
I'm just giggling.
He's sitting there going like, yes, I too work with Fareed on this.
Dude, he has a bunch of anxiety. Oh my! I've never seen a dog. I've never felt more validated by an animal than
He looks
Winchester.
at you like, are you nervous too?
Yeah.
I don't know who's at the door.
Yeah. Like, his anxiety validates me so much. So with that being said.
So anxiety is a problem that absolutely plagues society nowadays. American
society as a whole, or just like American society?
Society as a whole. I started off with American, but then I did dive into European and Asian societies. But it's one of the ones that modern society deals with the most. I mean, it is such a massive problem for people. According to the National Institute of Mental Health, NIMH.
Nice.
19.1% of U.S. adults aged 18 or older had an anxiety disorder in the past year. So you're saying nearly 20% of adults.
Yeah, I'm just going to come out and say it. I'm going to come out and say it. That seems low. That seems low.
Well, sir, that is like classified with it. Like they had to get medically checked for it, right?
Okay, fair.
So nearly 20%, nearly 1/5 of people, based on data from that study, of course. And then the number is higher for women at 23.4%, nearly a quarter of them.
Wow.
Yes. Damn. And then overall, 31.1% of U.S. adults experience an anxiety disorder at some point in their lives.
I think mine was nursing school.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about anxiety disorders versus general anxiety. Okay. So I want to just be very clear in my discussion here because I know this can be a very polarizing topic of like, hey, stay in your lane kind of a thing.
No, I don't know. I think the general consensus is people can all relate to each other in the form of anxiety.
No, I want to be very careful with this because this is where I'm gonna get kind of very opinionated on this, right? And people are gonna look at me sometimes and be like, "Hey, you don't understand that," and that's why I'm gonna clarify it right now, so the comment section can be still. No, and I don't want to hit your anxiety.
Drag them over the coals. You guys have my permission.
Drag me. That anxiety disorders are a very real thing and need to be addressed with the proper medical professional help, and many things that can affect anxiety levels and disorders such as hormones, diets, and life situations. This discussion is in no way intended to be used as a substitute for proper mental care.
Sure.
Just getting that out of the way right now, guys.
I think you'd be surprised though. I actually agree with that staunchly. Like, it's kind of like the thing about, depression. Like, I can tell you for a cold hard fact, I have experienced depression in my life, no doubt. But I think also if you isolate yourself, if you eat like shit, if you never exercise, if you don't put in a conscious effort to like at least get in the mindset of like this could get better, like you're really not giving yourself much of a fighting chance. And that doesn't mean I don't still struggle with that stuff. I'm very much so do, but like, dude, like there comes a point, my famous saying, what role are you playing in your own suffering? And like,
and you're 100%
I don't think that statement you made is like that bad left field or something.
I'm just saying that like in the things I'm going to discuss here, right? Some people are going to get hit by that and say, you don't understand what I'm going through.
Right. Well, because it has potential to invalidate.
And that invalidation I'm trying to take care of right now, that like your mental health is important and you should deal with it professionally.
Then good on you, buddy. You're doing the right thing.
That's what we're doing right now.
You're making your disclaimer. You're taking that accountability now. Good on you.
And now I'm going to hit you with a hammer. So that's the next part of this. The rest of it I call general anxiety.
Yeah.
While that can be dealt with and should be dealt with a therapist.
Sure.
There's so much you can do aside from that.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay, yeah.
So I want to start with like, what does anxiety feel like? Let's start you off there.
Oh, it feels, for me, it feels like I'm almost floating. Like it feels like sometimes my skin is just like tingling or on fire. And then my heart like pauses for a moment, like, and immediately like the volume of blood that feels like it's going through my heart is at least quadruple. Like people around me, or like if anybody's like lay their head on my chest and I suddenly get anxiety, they're like, your heart's beating like not fast, but hard, like really hard.
So yours is overstimulated.
Yeah,
it's
like mine's like that, and like it makes like my eyes kind of racy, or like it makes me like break into a cold sweat sometimes, clammy hands. Like,
so for me, some of them were like heavy weight on your chest. Like you can't quite breathe.
Okay, that one I don't have as much, but yeah, that makes sense.
For me, it's like I can't quite catch that breath. And you'll find me yawning a lot as like a forced reaction.
Now you're going to do it because you're talking about we're both going to yawn.
Okay. Nervous energy that doesn't let you relax.
Oh, pain. Yeah.
I've seen the people that like, I need to walk. I need to be doing something.
Or even me. Look at me right now. Like I'm like fidgeting with this cord on my headphone. Like I'm not sitting still,
Can't get enough breath was what I had put in there.
Yeah. That's a tough one. That would be a rough one, man.
Oh, I deal with that one for sure.
Obviously, that's just going to make it worse.
Your mind runs and doesn't let you focus on one thing. I'm going to go ahead and hit you with the hammer on that one, buddy. That one's all you.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And I'm going to go ahead.
Thoughts are like I can't direct my energy or my mental fortitude.
Well, I'm going to point this one out on you because, like, I see it in you and one other person I know.
Yeah.
Super, super heavily, man. Mm-hmm. And this topic originally came up from watching. Wow, I just had to. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
It's okay. We're drinking sparkling water, buddy. It's all right.
Yeah. So this topic originally came from watching two people in my life.
Yeah.
Specifically, it was you and one other person, right? And you both have a lot of the same traits. You both have trouble with focusing, a lot of energy being pushed around.
Yeah.
And your sleep is just not that fantastic. Yeah. And so
my sleep has gotten better, thankfully, but yes.
Well, I've watched their pain, or their frustration in sleep, and it really has brought me to this point where I wanted to talk about it, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, as painful as it's going to be, I'm sure that I'm excited to talk about it.
And one of the thoughts that I had that during my healing, man, I was able to get up at like 6 o'clock every morning. And it was this weird mixture of anxiety that got me up early.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I was restful. But I was
sure.
like, there was definitely a lot of anxious energy in that sleep. And so my body would say, 6 o'clock, get up, do something.
Oh, okay.
In that healing process, right?
Wow.
And now I struggle to wake up at 6 again.
Yeah.
I'm waking up earlier than I've ever woken up still. I'm waking up around 7-ish, and I'm just like, oh, man, it's not quite early enough.
Yeah.
But, like, that's still early, right?
Yeah, I definitely can, like, I feel you on the whole, like, sleep aspect of it. Because even, in times of my life or periods when I'm having more anxiety, it doesn't matter that I slept 8 hours. Like, it's still not restful enough because that energy just, like, takes so much out of you. Like, even most recently, like when I've been stressed out and I've had, situations that made me like wildly anxious, like I am exhausted. Like I'm just now at this point, like finally starting to catch up on that. And I'm finally starting to feel more rested. And I'm finally starting to like I woke up early this morning to ride my mountain bike, but I went to bed at like 9 p.m. I was asleep at 9:10 probably.
Yeah. But you beat the hell out of yourself.
Yeah, but like even if I am trying to get that rest, even if I do lay in bed, like even if I do manage to fall asleep, like it's still not enough. When you're that anxious, it's not enough.
And a big part of it has been catching up on sleep and feeling safe while sleeping. You like most people don't feel safe sleeping.
Okay.
And so they struggle to fall asleep. They struggle to stay asleep, and then they struggle throughout the day. Right. If you're awake, you're in control of the situation, but you're not.
I mean, that makes sense. Sure.
So that's a lot of the problem there, right?
Wow.
And I found that a lot of my peace, like I had to bring myself this place of peace and understanding that whatever things I'm going to deal with, I can deal with. And so anxiety doesn't rule me anymore. And that improved my sleep significantly.
I'm sure. Wow.
Just, man,
that's cool.
like I can look at sleep. Like lately I've been looking at it like a thief of joy at times, but I also understand that like sleep is the most important thing you got to do.
Sleep being a thief of joy?
Yes.
Wow. That's a different perspective.
Well, because like if I'm not awake, I can't do more stuff. But that's anxiety talking. It's saying, well, I don't have enough time to do stuff. Yeah. No. Sleep is what gives you the fuel to do the fun stuff. Or the rough stuff. Or any of the stuff.
Yeah.
It's all sleep.
It's also where you heal, quite literally.
You cannot work
physically
out
and mentally,
and not sleep. Yes. So for all you anxious Nancys out there, right? I want to tell you that sleep is going to be your most important thing you do and barometer of how you're feeling anxious-wise, anxiety-wise.
That's a good one.
If you can track I went to sleep last night and I felt pretty good falling asleep.
Yeah.
Right. You're probably on the right track. If you wake up a lot, probably a good indicator. You may know that you're not feeling great. If you wake up to pee a lot, go talk to a urologist.
Yeah. No, I remember waking up like constantly. I remember in like the worst parts of my life, like when I was just the most anxious, I had way too much going on. I was medicating and coping in ways that were just like anything but healthy. I slept maybe 4 hours a night, 5 hours a night, and then like I didn't even stay asleep the whole time. It was like, you wake up every 30 or 45 minutes, or maybe you woke up 2 or 3 times during that 4 or 5 hour period. It was awful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe that. So it brought me to this next part, this next portion of our conversation, which is a topic that we can discuss over and over and over again.
Sure.
And I truly believe that this is going to be maybe one of the what's the word? The pillars in which our podcast rests upon.
Yeah.
But it is that we must find the root of whatever things ail you.
Yeah. And then uproot them bitches out the soil.
Yeah.
And
I will be the first one to say that you and I have struggled with it, even at times when we know damn well what we need to do, but we forget.
That's what hurts. What hurts is when you know, and I know we need to do and what it's going to take.
And sometimes we just forget.
Yeah.
Because the anxiety takes over and you're like, what the hell?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to deal with this. You do. So I have come up with a basic equation on how to resolve this thing. And for this process, I've named it myself, and I just call it rooting.
Okay.
I call it rooting. Whatever the issue is, I'm going to root it. Right? And if you didn't like math, get over it.
Yeah.
Square root it, right?
Right.
So I take whatever thing is stressing me out. I identify what the situation is. And I can use an example of stressing about my future. Like that's a good example of it, right?
Yeah.
I then identify how is it making me feel, right? So
Okay.
I'm going to say, okay, so how is it making me feel? I then dissect it. What are the pieces of this that build up to this situation, right?
Yeah.
So then I look at every single piece. So the first part would be about, we said the word future. Okay. What about my future? Okay. I feel like I'm falling behind. Therefore, I'm preventing a future.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I have to ask myself why. Because I'm not where I feel I should be. Why?
Right.
Okay. Because I don't make enough money. Okay. Why don't I make enough money? Because I don't work enough, or maybe my job doesn't pay enough. Okay. Why is money my biggest concern?
That's where I was gonna go. I was gonna be like, no, hold on. Now, what the hell is enough money anyway?
Yeah. Why is money my biggest concern? I want to feel like I can support myself or a family.
Well, sure.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Why does that matter? Because I feel like if I fail, it's the same as dying.
Wow. That's out there. Wow.
But that's how I feel.
No.
It's akin to it, right?
No, I'm just saying. This is very interesting once you actually dissect something. Like,
and the answer was a bit morbid, right? But
yeah.
so I rooted it down that, like, okay, so my root is failure connected to a feeling or sensation of death or total demise.
Wow.
So my fear is not the lack of a future. My fear is not having one at all. Okay. So now I understand. I got to the root, the bottom. Like, I can't go any lower than feeling like I'm dying. That is what failure is associated with in my mind. So I'm afraid of failing, which means I'm afraid of dying.
Wow.
Okay. I can deal with that now. I can understand that. I can grasp my head around the concept that I feel like I'm dying.
For the other people that just spiral on that.
Yeah. And
you're like, oh, I can do this now. And everybody else is like, what?
Death? But now that you understand and that you're associating your feeling of failure with death,
yeah,
you can now logic and reason through it. Right?
That's fair. Well, and it's just basically what you've done is you've created a grounding method. So like some other worthy mentions, just as a side quest here, ones that I've used before, like, wow, in the height of like anxiety completely and totally ruining my life, peel and all, bite a lemon. And no, I don't mean like, ooh, a little nibble. No, I mean like bite half of that bitch off.
Grounding.
Yeah, grounding. Like what you've essentially done is created a grounding method for yourself, which is...
I would say yes. It's a grounding method, though, that gives you a solution, and which we're getting to right now.
Sure.
So what we've done is create a process tree of feelings, right? And I acknowledge that me failing monetarily feels akin to death. So I've given everything a proper association.
Right.
Why am I anxious? I feel like I'm dying.
Right.
Why do I feel like I'm dying? Because I'm not doing the things that I think I need to get done to provide a successful living future.
Right.
Okay. So then I try to now ask myself, is this rational? Okay. Is failing really the same as death?
Right.
And then the truth is no, but I've extrapolated it, right? I've had events that like look like death to me. So for example, I drive by an underpass every day.
Okay.
And I see homeless people there who have ineffectively, in my mind, failed to achieve the things that I wanted to do.
Okay.
Right? Which is have a family, take care of people, the picket fence, the house. I want those things. I actively want those things. These people didn't. I look at them. I have associated that with that, and that's death to me.
That one might be a far reach. But
not for me, though. And that's the point.
Yeah.
You need to pinpoint it for yourself.
Yeah.
And I've realized that I have extrapolated that for me. And that extrapolation is what you need to kind of come to an acceptance of.
Yeah.
You need to accept that, well, is it rational? Maybe not. Maybe that is not rational. But I have to acknowledge and accept that is how I feel. And it's okay to feel that.
Yeah.
And just absorb it and deal with it. Cool.
Totally.
Because I've respected how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
So
this is your biting the lemon.
This is me biting the lemon. That's exactly it, right?
That one works really good. Damn, you want to get yourself out of a spiral? Boy, you take that bite out of that lemon. And because for some people, right, like you can logic your way out of this, or like you can sit down and like calm down and like have this thought process that you call rooting, which is great. But like, dude, sometimes, like, I'll be honest, like sometimes for me to be able to process and think I can do it now, back then I could not. Like,
and that's fair.
Very realistically, like at the very like a good first step. All I'm saying is
maybe,
like this is
maybe
awesome.
the first step is bite the lemon.
Yeah,
try that.
That's
right?
all I'm suggesting for the listeners.
Yeah.
Is like for the listeners who maybe are like, what? I can't just sit here and calmly think about this, which is great that you can, and great that I can now that we have years of therapy and things under our belt.
It's a math problem. I've turned it into an equation, right? And I've turned it into something that you can feel.
You've made it tangible. Like you've put something on paper. Now this is tangible. This isn't a spiraling thought process in my head that's out of control in a tornado. Now this is tangible.
And
this
hopefully,
is something I can.
If you are spiraling, you can sit there and just put the little pieces together, right? Maybe you bite the lemon first, or maybe you don't. Maybe you just remember, hey, I have a formula for this, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we go back to that formula, which is okay. Is it akin to death? No. I extrapolated this.
Right.
Okay, so why did I do that? Okay. Now, why did my brain allow this extrapolation to happen?
Right.
Okay, so I have to sit there and really think about this for a moment. And you have to remember that while you're in this process of trying to think about little details, you are calming yourself down. Because you're not focusing on this giant thing anymore. You're focusing on the tiny little details. And you're asking yourself, how did I get there? How did I get there? Why am I here? Okay, so why did I extrapolate this? And I had to think, maybe growing up, I felt like we didn't have enough. Okay?
Ooh, wow. Yeah.
Now, I realized that for my family, that was actually the opposite of that. We had enough. My fear comes from having enough and then someday not having enough, breaking that cycle or that trend.
Mm-hmm.
And my hope is that we go from just having enough to having more than enough to plenty to over enough, right? Like just over. And me feeling like I didn't progress over my prior experiences would feel like a failure. Okay. And if we, and in this extrapolation, right, not having enough maybe brought the family great stress.
Yeah, for sure. Like I can definitely relate to that on my end.
And actually, this one was more geared towards you.
Yeah.
Because that was not my experience per se.
Right.
Mine was I did have enough, and I want to make sure my family always has more than enough.
Yeah. Whereas like mine's quite the opposite of like we didn't have enough in like many different senses. Like sometimes it was financially, sometimes it was connection, emotional connection, and now my biggest fear and my driving motivator and my source of anxiety is being afraid of not having enough again.
That very much was meant for you.
Yeah. So like now I'm like, no, I'm going to make sure I have like 4 different avenues of guaranteed retirement, which is completely unnecessary.
No.
But like, it's
maybe.
Listen to us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Listen to us say that.
It's healthy to have. It's healthy to have.
And it's like, and it's good. And some of the most successful people in the world are driven by stuff like that. But when you really look at it and you really think about it and you talk about it out loud, you're like, that's absurd.
So we acknowledge that like the stress of not having enough was then passed on to us, right?
Regardless of how it was passed on to us. It was like, it's so funny how both of us deal with it, but we came from different places. Yeah.
So now I see that family or childhood trauma is really the root of my daily stress.
Yeah.
So I brought it down to like 2 different things. That failure is akin to death.
Yeah.
Where did that sense of failure or death come from?
Right.
It came from my childhood. And now I understand that looking at my childhood upbringing or your childhood upbringing is truly the cause of your anxiety and your stress. And now that you understand the root, that's where it comes from. You can dissect that and look at your upbringing and say, hey, maybe I wasn't hugged enough. Maybe I felt like I was going to go hungry sometimes in the week. Or maybe
Go ahead.
And so the stress of me knowing that my fridge may not be full really keeps me up. That's why I need to make more money. I want to make sure that fridge is always full.
Or maybe the idea of the person that you would be with more money or with more success, whether it be money or friends or, social status. Like maybe we subconsciously don't believe that we're ready to fill those shoes. And that's the problem.
Yeah.
Like, oh, but if I do this thing, if I have more money, then I'll be ready to fill those shoes. And it's like, you're already ready to fill the shoes. You know what I mean?
You're close. You're close, right? You can always get there. So, excuse me. The burps came. So, now that we're rationalizing it,
Yeah.
in that rationalization, we're acknowledging how we feel. And that is some of the biggest thing, and I keep coming back over and over to it. It's acknowledging you feel a certain way. And acknowledging that the younger version of you felt a certain way.
Yeah.
Because now you're giving your inner child acknowledgement.
Mm-hmm.
You're giving your inner child the ability and that moment, opportunity to express themselves when they couldn't before. And that's how you fix that childhood trauma, is giving that inner child a voice again.
Mm-hmm. No doubt.
Your inner child cannot continue to scream and scream and scream and be ignored and expect that pain to go away.
Mm-mm.
So
Not a shot.
You give that voice back, you give the power back to your inner child, and then you can start to acknowledge and recognize that, you know what? The things I'm feeling now are not an actual situation. That's not really the case.
Mm-hmm.
I'm simply trying to prevent the pain I felt as a child.
Yeah.
You know, so you're right. Maybe it is a grounding method, but it's a grounding method that gives you a solution.
Great. Yeah.
You know,
it's fantastic.
So now that you're processing all of this, now that I've processed all of this, it allows me to come up with solutions to alleviate the problems in the near future, while rooting the problem allows me to resolve the old problem and deal with the past root of my trauma. And it'll help me alleviate the current day stress and the stress of my future. So this process allows you to deal with today's pain, yesterday's pain, and prevent future pain. That's why I do it this way.
Yeah.
So that's why I do my rooting method.
Yeah.
Because by doing that, you can resolve it all.
It's perspective, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's perspective, right? Like for me, I zoom out. Like where you like zoom in on the fine details, I kind of zoom out of like, hey man, like we're floating on a rock in the middle of the cosmos.
So I took that into consideration.
Yeah.
And I have to dismiss it now.
Huh?
I'm so sorry. At least in this situation.
Well, yeah, in your situation, but
in this kind of process, because I recognize, and we get right to it. Right, what you're saying now is the next thing we deal with, right? Because I used to like your method of like, it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme.
It's not that it doesn't matter. It's just it's another. It's a form of a grounding method, right? Like
sort of, but it's a dismissive grounding method because you're just saying because we're this little speck on this rock floating through the universe and not that big of a deal. That dismisses how the person, the speck, feels, and we are that speck.
Not at all, man. Like, so I need you to hear me out on this one a little bit.
Let me hear you. I've heard it before, and that's what it always took me to.
Right.
Please finish for the audience.
Well, just because it's just perspective, man. It's not a dismissive grounding method. It's not dismissive of anything. Like I completely recognize and validate that may be what kind of emotion it invokes in you, but like the reality is that like if you want to have perspective on like life and on like how much mental space that these things deserve to have in your brain, like jump out of an airplane, go skydiving, realize and zoom out and realize that like, hey man, everything's going to be okay. I am okay. And in that perspective and in that kind of mindset, you can ask these questions, formulate these hypotheses, and like then get into the nitty-gritty details. Like it's more of like a way to start into what you're saying and like a way to get yourself on a level playing field so that you're not spiraling and there's not a tornado going on in your brain, so that we can ask the important nitty-gritty questions. It's not a way to escape or dismiss the problem. It's a way to like...
Can you explain to me how it's not dismissing the issue? Better yet, say what you were going to say, and I shouldn't have interrupted you.
No, it is. Yeah, that is what I was going to say. It's like, when I'm anxious or like when I'm like in this place where I can't ask these questions, because like that's the problem, right? Like that's the real issue with anxiety, is that it never allows us to arrive to these really important questions that you're posing for people to ask themselves. That's great. And those are all amazing things. And that is the solution. I promise you. You guys want to get to the bottom of your anxiety? I can promise you it's not from constant dissociation, because that's the fine line, right? Like, I'm not merely suggesting that you should, every time you have anxiety or get overwhelmed, zoom out, get that perspective that we're just a rock floating in the middle of the cosmos and shit doesn't matter. What I'm saying is that, like, acknowledge that that is true. Acknowledge that, like, there are bigger things afoot, and get perspective on the situation and on your existence, and then ask yourself these questions, because, like, it's not dismissive, and it's not a way to minimize or to make these things not matter. It's a way to, like, say, hey, in the grand scheme of things, the world's still turning, I'm still alive, and everything's okay. Now I will calmly zoom back in and ask myself these questions and be rational and calm about it.
So in my head, and maybe it's just the way I'm interpreting it,
right,
the zoom out method is still dismissing myself until I can calm myself to zoom in. And I don't think that works for me, and maybe it works for you.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm not liking it. What I do like it for is for things I cannot control. I love that method for that.
Oh, well, that's a good way to use it too. Sure.
Right. So, like, if someone is deciding to be a jerk to me and doing something I cannot stop, I can only say, hey, man, I can just step away from the situation. From there on out, it's just a speck on this giant floating blue rock. And that I can use it for. But I can't for a moment, at least for me, in good conscience, zoom out and say, we're just floating on this rock to calm myself down. I'd rather chew on a lemon. Just to kind of, like, wake myself up.
It's the same concept, realistically, right?
Sort of.
Like the lemon, you biting the lemon makes you exist in the moment.
Yes.
Like, it forces your brain, or forces your consciousness to exit that your brain and, like, the mentality and the spiraling. Like,
yes.
it forces you to be in your body, because you're like, ooh, that's super sour. That's crazy. You know. Like,
yes. And the other method makes me feel like I am worthless because I'm just a tiny speck, and that's why I'm saying it's so dismissive in my mind. That, like, because it's just this floating rock, like, my speck really doesn't matter. It could actually throw me the other direction, say, if I don't matter, I don't belong here. Which, that's super dark.
Right.
So that's why I'm saying, like, I don't know, and I want to be very careful for other people that think like me.
That's fair.
That maybe that potential dismissive is very a dangerous teeter.
Right. So just for clarification, this is not, the zoom out is not the answer. It is just the precursor to getting into these nitty gritty details and asking these questions.
I like your lemon method more.
The lemon one's pretty good.
Like or like jumping out of a plane or doing something. But, like,
that one's damn near fail proof. You're going to have a real hard time spiraling if you, and I'm saying peel and all, like, not this cute little, I'm going to manicure, cut off the peel. No. Yeah. Whole lemon.
I think that's
you're going to have a
fantastic.
hard time spiraling with a whole entire mouthful of lemon like that.
And to not dismiss your zoom out method, I think that is just fantastic for things you cannot control. And this is just my opinion. I said it's going to be a very opinionated thing.
That's fine, buddy.
So that's all it is.
Okay, buddy. I also like that I'm drinking the lemon sparkling water today.
Mine's lime.
Nice. Like, you'd probably bite into a lime too, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. But now I want ceviche.
Yeah.
Ceviche. So, the truth about anxiety is that we tend to ignore it.
Oh, yeah.
With distractions.
Yep, for sure.
Which is why I come back to the whole rooting method. The rooting method forces you to deal with it head on. But I'll give you some of the examples of the distractions that we do. And again, I thought of you, and I thought of some other person, and a couple of these things were me. Right? Overbooking ourselves.
Yep.
That's a big one.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and you've done, to your credit, you've gotten the calendar out to help prevent overbooking.
Oh, I have to. Absolutely. Because I was 100% at times dodging anxiety and overbooking so much.
And I overbooked. I refused the calendar because it made me feel like I didn't have autonomy over my own time, which is completely nonsense.
It's so fun. No, I mean, it's not nonsense. It's just interesting how differently my brain and your brain work. Like, it's just, this is a very, maybe this episode focuses a little bit more on how, like, different we are. But,
oh, absolutely. It definitely does.
But it's just interesting.
Sometimes it's alcohol to take off the edge.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
And this was not only you. This was a few people I'd interacted with recently.
Yeah, absolutely.
That like alcohol, and I've noticed that some people just like don't drink as often when they're feeling better.
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
And that should be a good sign to you guys. Like, oh, I've been in a really good place lately. I haven't touched alcohol in 4 weeks. Right?
Yeah, sure.
Just this is a detail. Or procrastination's a big one.
That's a really big one. Being like paralyzed by the anxiety and like you would think it would be a motivator to make you do more things. Like when mine's bad enough, I'll procrastinate. I'll lay on that couch and I will rot.
Yep, that was me last night.
Yeah.
I stayed on the couch until I didn't need to stay.
Which isn't always bad. Like I don't want to pose that as a bad thing. It's like sometimes that is self-care.
Self-care, yeah. Needing that extra hour of TV instead of going to bed or getting things done.
Yeah,
That's a thing, right?
Yeah.
Stress and anxiety manifest themselves in so many ways, and we don't often deal with them in the best of ways. We overuse certain things.
Sure.
And we make ourselves, in the way we make ourselves feel better.
Food even. Big time.
That's me.
Yeah?
Food and I have a very loving and toxic relationship at times.
Wow.
Yes. Like, she is my mistress I hope to die with. I love food. I love flavors. I love the art in food. I love the experience and the dopamine hits it provides me, but I also acknowledge they can overindulge.
Yeah.
And I can eat
Dude.
enormous amounts of food in front of somebody.
I'm sincerely convinced that you can easily body like 10,000 calories. I think I've watched you with my own eyes body 10,000 calories.
Yes,
I thought I could eat. Wrong. Hopelessly wrong. I can't.
Just for context, he's like 6'2".
Yeah, and 200 pounds. I am not a small human being.
And just for context, I am 5'10", and I am 180 pounds.
Yeah, and
Yes.
could just eat a village. But that's cool. Anyway.
Yes. And so that's definitely one of my little weaknesses there, but I'm working on it.
Yeah.
But that reminds you that even good things can be overused,
Sure, yeah.
such as exercising.
Or therapy.
No, exercising.
What are you trying to say, Fareed?
I'm trying to say that some people hit the gym and ignore their pain. Some people hit the trails and trees and ignore their pain.
Yeah, maybe so. Or exchange it for physical. That's the other thing, right? Like, that's the very real reality of, like, the mountain biking and to the extreme that I do it. Like, I exchange sometimes, mental anguish with physical because the physical at least makes sense, right? Like, at least it's like, well, yeah, my legs are on fire. I feel like I'm going to vomit and, like, I feel like I'm levitating from all this physical exhaustion, but I also, like, pedaled 26 miles.
I'm going to give the viewers a different perspective here for a moment from what you see this as, because I am the outsider in Devin's hobby. Devin recently took me mountain biking, right? And I can totally understand now why he does it, or why it's a great place to, like, avoid anxiety and pain, because you're literally exchanging it for the fear of your life. He is at one point pushing himself to a whole new extreme, because if he's not careful, his body will eat a tree.
Yeah.
It's just simple as that, right?
Yeah.
Like, I remember going down these hills. They were baby hills. They were for
that's
them.
What's bad, right?
For them, right?
Like that's the bad part is I didn't even get to take you down the nasty stuff.
The truth of the matter is, I just have a little experience with this stuff.
Oh, sure.
And so I was able to survive, but I felt only fear and terror the whole time.
Yeah.
And I was literally fighting for my life.
Yeah.
And I did these things, and I did it over and over. I did it about 3 times.
Yeah.
Right? Until my body said, the anxiety it built in me of fighting for my life, I went to the truck and I fell asleep for an hour.
Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
My body said, we're done here. Which, when I took a step back, then I was able to zoom out.
Yeah.
And look at why Devin does this.
Yeah.
And I realized it's a great coping method, but it's also a great way to hide your anxiety.
Yeah.
It is both. And that's what I would talk about, like overuse of good things, right?
Sure.
And I acknowledge that some people go to the gym and maybe they run it out.
Oh, yeah.
Or some people like just have to overlift, right? Or they hyper focus on bodybuilding.
Like the dude that gets his heart broken and then like 2 years later is the size of a gorilla. Like, okay.
Yeah.
You love the gym, huh?
So it can be used for good, but it can also be overused
Yeah.
in a negative fashion. So that's definitely a thing that you need to acknowledge. And maybe you're one of those gym guys or gym girls that like live in the gym because it's therapy for you. It's not really therapy. It's
not therapy.
Coping
It's
mechanism.
I was going to say it's a healthy coping mechanism. It's not therapy.
Healthy-ish, right? Because you are not actually dealing with the root of the issue.
Yeah.
And the truth of the matter is, if you did deal with the issue, you might not lift anymore. So, like, there's that.
Right. And I sure as shit ain't giving up mountain biking anytime soon. So,
Good.
Whatever anxiety has to exist in me, let it.
So, overindulging is a thing. And
No,
people
that's-
can hurt
yeah.
themselves. And Devin has broken many ribs.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yes.
Ribs, my collarbone.
So,
God.
and the truth of the matter is, for me, my way completely shifting my mindset to a place of always finding roots, that has helped me tremendously. Right? And on top of that, finding things that do make me feel somewhat uncomfortable and doing maintenance to keep myself in a place of healthy stability.
Yeah.
That helps, right? Like, you don't want to always be comfortable. Comfort is good, but it's a place that you step in and you step out. You step in and you step out. You do not want to be completely comfortable all the time. Because the moments you do have to go deal with discomfort, it's a great opportunity for you to spiral.
Yeah.
So deal with that properly. So here's an example. The things that help me feel grounded and secure and safe are practicing fiscal responsibility, right?
Okay.
So I know that if I have X amount of dollars in my bank account at all times, I feel okay. I feel safe,
Yeah.
right? And a way that I can play with myself and make myself a little uncomfortable there. You know what? I've done really well lately. I've been saving more money. I'm going to go spend $2,000.
Okay.
Willy-nilly. And it helps my comfort and it makes me uncomfortable at the same time because I have enough money that I can just do that.
Right.
That reinforces that I have stability.
Yeah.
And it also lets me play with the other side of things because you can't just like constantly be comfortable. It's a little risky.
Yeah.
Why'd I do that? That's not in my normal ways.
Yeah.
But it reinforces both.
Yeah.
That I can play and be fun and agitate myself, right? Be uncomfortable with it. But I also know that I'm okay. I'm playing within parameters. Everything is fine.
Nice.
So that's nice. The next one is like body image. Does my body image make me feel bad? Then make my physical health a priority and really work at making my gym and eating routine healthy.
Yes,
which
sir.
I will say.
Which you've done.
I've been doing it.
Being
right?
on that Green Chef organic diet, come on.
Which we might be going to someone else. But
It is pricey, yeah.
It's
It's
pricey.
a little pricey.
But in retrospect, it is still way cheaper than what we've been doing.
Yeah.
Have you added up how much money we were spending eating out?
Nope, refuse to because I know it's awful. And I haven't been doing it honestly. Like now, it's been fantastic.
$600 to $800 a month.
How much?
$600 to $800 a month.
I thought you said 6,800, and I was
No.
like, no, that's not true.
$600 to $800 a month.
Yeah, that checks
So I
out.
want you to think about that, right? If
Yeah.
we were going out, we were eating $30-$40 alone.
Yeah.
Wow. You do that 10 times, you're already at $400.
Yep.
And we did not do it 10 times. What was 15, 20 times? You go on dates.
Yep.
That's no longer $40. That's $80 to $100.
Yeah. No doubt.
So you know what? $80 a week is not that bad anymore. No.
Nope. Sure isn't.
That's
$320 a month? Yeah, that's fine.
we're okay again.
That's fine.
Yep. So that definitely helps. So I've made that a priority of mine, right? Like today, I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to continue to eat at my caloric deficit. I'm focusing on what goes into my mouth now.
Yep.
I like that a lot. Just making sure, like, I treat myself with dark chocolate now, dark sea salt chocolate, because I like it. Well, it's got
No, I'm just.
polyphenols, and I know that it's good for me. It's lower in the sugar. I don't have the full serving.
It's
These
fantastic,
are
buddy.
all good things for you.
These are good things for you. I'm not invalidating that.
Eating health.
I'm sorry for my snicker.
You can laugh. It's just I don't understand why you laugh, but you can laugh. It's funny, I'm sure.
Just because I remember the nights where you come over and you're like, let's go get some dark chocolate. Just like randomly. Like you just show up in the house, you're like, let's go get dark chocolate. And I'm like, well, hell yeah, because I'm going to get sparkling water while we're there. So yours is dark chocolate to my sparkling water.
And it's because then I know that it satiates the sweet tooth.
Sure.
Gives it a little salty sweet. And I know it's good for me. You want to get high quality, good dark chocolate. And then the other one that kind of can be a trigger for stress is, do I feel isolated and alone? That's another trigger point for people, right? If that's the thing, then make meeting with friends and family a priority.
No doubt.
If you feel alone.
It sounds so simple, but like it's true, guys. Like for the people listening, like this sounds like such like, well, no shit, guys. But like, man, until you execute it and until you really just like narrow it down, ask these questions, do the things you need to do. It's kind of like when we started this episode and I was like, hey man, these things exist. I've experienced depression myself to like the darkest places that you can get. I promise it exists and it's real. But like if you're not doing these things, if you're not giving yourself that attention you need, if you're not putting good things in your body, getting good rest, like you just don't give yourself much of a chance.
You don't. And the biggest thing is recognizing that you are anxious.
Yeah.
Allowing yourself to feel the feelings of anxiety and not to run from them or distract yourself.
Yeah.
Right? I call this showing myself emotional respect.
Oh, I like that. Say it again.
Allowing yourself to feel the feelings of anxiety and to not run or distract yourself from them is what I call showing myself emotional respect.
Damn, that's good. That's good.
Have the audacity to show yourself respect emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
Allow yourself to feel the things you're feeling. If you need to sit there and panic for a moment, be okay with allowing yourself to panic. And I know internally, the reason panic feels scary is because it feels like a runaway train.
Yeah.
But the moment you allow yourself to panic, the train is back being conducted by you, and you can almost peacefully enjoy that panic.
Yeah. Or just get back into the freaking driver's seat and be like, okay, we're slowing down now.
Like the other, I was a couple of weeks ago. I did this a couple of weeks ago, where I told you, buddy, I'm gonna have a panic attack.
Prescribed panic attacks.
Yeah.
No, sure.
Or a mental breakdown. That's what it was. It wasn't a panic attack. It was a mental breakdown.
Yeah.
And I said, buddy, I feel it coming on. And I said, I'm gonna go deal with it now. And you're like, okay.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely raised an eyebrow, no doubt.
Yep.
But
and I went, and I knew what was happening, and I acknowledged it. I gave it the respect it deserved, and I let the energy flow out of me, and it felt fan-fucking-tastic.
Damn, that's a good one.
I did the things that my body and mind felt it needed. I went into my house, and I blared loud music, and I sang, and I screamed, and I said, I just cursed up a storm.
That I remember hearing the music turned up really loud, yeah.
And but I didn't do it because I didn't know how I was feeling. I did it because I knew that my body said, okay, it's time to release this energy.
Yeah.
And I know it's anxious energy. And I know that I feel out of control. And it was me regaining control. Mm-hmm. And it was so good. So let yourself feel what you're feeling. You know, it's so, so, so important. When we don't allow ourselves to feel and focus on everything but the problems we are feeling, we don't give the rest of the world our best selves. And we only steal joy from ourselves and others because anxiety is the thief of joy and time. So anxiety is a cry for help from our inner selves that's asking for attention and for healing. These are very, very important details. And by listening and acknowledging the issue down to the roots, we can improve and move past them. The only way to find the root is to identify, acknowledge, dissect, and ask why at every step of the way until we find the points that can be rooted no more. And only then can we find solutions and acknowledgments that calm our hurts.
No doubt.
This is a process that can be done, that you can repeat over and over. And the biggest thing is to recognize when it happens. If you're spiraling, are you distracting yourselves again? Are you avoiding or procrastinating? And if so, recognize it and start the equation.
Over and over again.
Yes, and do it every time you need it. And remember, you can feel better. Just give yourself the opportunity to heal yourself.
That's the biggest thing, is stepping in that mindset that it can get better. Like, that's part of the anxiety. Just thinking that like it won't get better. You know,
that should be your base point, I would say.
Yeah.
Converting your mindset into a place of like it'll always get better. It's just use your tools now.
Yeah.
So that is a wonderful conclusion to this.
I agree.
Thank you guys. We will see you again next time.
Oh yeah.